We have four different accounts of the life and ministry and teaching of Jesus the Messiah. We know them as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's very clear that the Gospels that we know as Matthew, Mark, and Luke are similar to each other, and the Gospel of John, which concentrates much more on the teaching of Jesus, is very different. The question that's often asked is, what is the relationship between the writers Matthew, Mark, and Luke? The assumption that is often made is that Mark is the earliest of the Gospel writers. This, however, was not the view of the early church fathers. On several occasions, they state that the first gospel that was written was the Gospel of Matthew. And some even make the claim that Matthew wrote his gospel in the Hebrew language. Now, we do not have the text of Matthew in Hebrew. We are entirely dependent on it in the Greek form. But the assumption that Mark is the first gospel to be written, I think needs to be challenged. It's a complicated issue. There's several examples in Mark's gospel where it seems that he is combining what Matthew and Luke said. In other words, he knows Matthew's work and Luke's work, and he is putting them together to form his gospel. This suggests that he is in fact later in his writing than Matthew and Luke, and the assumption that Mark is the first of the gospel writers needs to be challenged.